Hi, everybody. I'm Tiffany Brown.
And I'm Paris Michael, and we're the founders of Creators Campus, a creative networking community that hosts events every month.
And for this month of May, we're coming at you a little different. So we got Creators Communicate, which are stories from the heart of some people that we've met, found, and wanted to share with you all that exemplify just how to go after your purpose, find your purpose and your destiny within your creative work, and just stay inspired by our community. So we hope you enjoy.
I am Akuyoe Graham. I'm an actor and a writer and founder of Spirit Awakening Foundation, which is an arts organization.
So my name is Esa Lewis. I am currently one of the co-executive producers on Grownish.
My name is Michael Silvera. I'm from the Bronx. I call myself the Arnold Palmer because I'm from the Bronx in Jersey.
I've got in touch with my voice. I know who I am. And I'm all right with not being liked. It's okay.
Because I want her to know that you can get a do-over, that her mom is living in the midst of a prayer answered and that I'm living a do-over.
Yeah, I started Untitled Chapter in 2015. And initially when I first did it, it was like a school project. How can we educate people on people who are on the spectrum?
If we could start with you just introducing yourself, what you do, how you would like to introduce yourself.
Oh, sure. Okay. I am Akuyoe Graham. I'm an actor and a writer and founder of Spirit Awakening Foundation, which is an arts organization. So I consider myself a multidisciplinary artist, because I work in different disciplines. Writing is one, acting is another, producing, and so many other things. I've always wanted to act and perform since I was a little girl. And I started in New York City. I was born in Ghana, West Africa, and went to primary school and a little bit of secondary school in London, England, and then moved to the United States. And through that journey, I've always, performing was always my wheelhouse. It's what I love to do. Someone once said, Akuyoe, when you're on stage, you come alive, because I really do enjoy it. And when I moved to Los Angeles about 30 years or so ago, I was working, I was in independent films, and I was doing quite well. And I just thought, well, there's got to be more to this, than just making money and being famous. I mean, I really said that. I remember going home and like I went on my knees and I wasn't even a religious person, but I just thought, God, is there more to this than this? Because there's got to be. And right after that, I was invited to work in the juvenile halls with a poetry program. And I really enjoyed it. I'd never heard of the whole juvenile system, didn't know it existed, didn't know what it was about. And that was my entryway into it. And when I would look at those faces, and most of them were Black and brown, they looked like me. So I look at these faces of these children, boys and girls, and I thought, oh, something's got to be done about this. This can't be right. Because I see kids with their hands in chains and their feet also in chains. That was a very jarring, it was very traumatizing to see that, especially because they were so young. So I've always felt that art can be a wonderful tool for transformation, for healing, for inspiration, for beauty. So I thought this gives me an opportunity to put all the things I love sort of together to be used for good, to be used for good. So I started on my own, just going back to the juvenile halls and camps when that poetry program was finished and just volunteering my time to work with the young boys and girls that were in my charge. And my intention was that I wanted to help them not to have to suffer emotionally the way I did, because leaving Africa and going to England was also traumatizing for me. And I used to be one of those people that, wanted to please people at any cost. Not so anymore. I've got in touch with my voice. I know who I am. and I'm all right with not being liked. It's okay. And actually, I realized that some people not liking me is actually, it's a good thing. I don't need everybody to like me. So these are the kinds of things I wanted to discuss with the young people that are incarcerated. I wanted to give them a space where they could really get in touch with themselves, irrespective of their circumstances and situations. And so we would do writing, role play, improvisations, and in between going to auditions or shooting a commercial or independent film, I was in the juvenile hall. So it really just took my heart. And so then I created the foundation to give me the leverage to be able to do more. And I learned about philanthropy through a philanthropist who's in Malibu here in Southern California. And he taught me about, the donor philanthropy relationships. And I met a whole lot of different people. And that's how the work started to grow. It really grew because of the program participants. People that were in my program in the juvenile halls and camps would tell someone else. They would either tell a teacher, a counselor, a probation officer, or a member of the board of supervisors. And so people started to look at what I was doing. And yeah, that's how it all started to grow. Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh, I know.
I said, thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that, because like you work with the community a lot, and you were able to see that, like, even through the youth, you were like, this is not okay. Like, this is not going to go where it should go, even in this correction facility.
Right.
And so besides the philanthropist in Malibu, was there ever a person you worked with that inspired you to work with the community in general? Like, what was the story specifically starting the foundation?
The foundation, honestly, it was the spiritual center that I belong to, which is the Agape International Spiritual Center, founded and directed by Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith. I would say that he was and has been and continues to be a big inspiration for me. I was sitting in the back of the center, the sanctuary, when the idea for the foundation popped in. Literally, I downloaded this information. I was like, Spirit Awakening Foundation. I like the name. So I was like, yeah, I'd do that. Sure. Because I like the name. I had no idea what it would entail. And I think that's a good thing, because had I known how much work it is, I might have gone, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. I'm an actress. I want to go act. But I didn't know. And so, inspired by the name, and also inspired by my own experiences and wanting to really advocate for young people, especially young people of color, to have their voices, to be strong, to speak up for themselves, not to be, taunted or ridiculed by other people. So all of that was what helped me to know that I was on the right path, that Spirit Awakening Foundation and the work that I was here to do was the right thing for me to do. And it gave me an opportunity to use my acting, my creativity as well, so I have the best of both worlds.
I'm so happy to hear about I researched the Agape Church, and it was in a class of mine that we were studying, different, it was actually Black cultural religious traditions. And then I also just got back from Ghana, so I'm so happy to hear.
Oh my goodness, you were in Ghana?
Yes, all these things are connecting. And actually, I'm going to tie this into a question later, but I wanted to ask, do you know, because my professor, she's a university professor at Loyola Marymount University, but Dr. Cheryl Grills, does that ring a bell or no?
No, I don't know who she is. Sorry.
Because it reminds me of, there's juvenile work. I don't know which area you were in with that. And then the reparations task force, just a lot of, I just had a lot of similarities in what you were saying of really being inspired by what you were seeing and what you didn't feel right. It comes down to just a feeling and how you have this what's the word, just this like urge, this push to change, to make change. And then it just becomes really, how do I keep going through all of the things that might be against me while in
That's
pursuit?
right. That's right. Absolutely.
Right, because it seems like when you're doing such amazing work, there will be things that test you and things that, so staying encouraged, what would you say is your, how to stay encouraged? Is it, your religious practices, or is it, or spiritual practices, or is it, other things?
The spiritual practices for sure. I'm a meditator. I started meditating once I started Agape, and I became a licensed spiritual practitioner there because it inspires me. There's a lot of artists that go to Agape, so I get to hear great singing and music and spoken word. And so when I do feel moments of discouragement, I know how to drop into myself and be with it, and not try to run away from what I'm feeling, not try to numb it with alcohol or sex or, or shopping or food. I know that I can, okay, I'm feeling this, I can acknowledge what I'm feeling and let it pass through. And that really has been a result of the meditation, which for me has been a lifesaver completely.
That's beautiful. P, did you have another question right now?
Yeah. So I guess my question would be, at this point in your life, what story are you ultimately narrating for the world from your perspective?
What a great question. I would say the story of being authentic, the story of self-acceptance, the story of being naked to oneself and to being a vulnerable. And we just finished filming the film version of Spirit Awakening, my one-woman show. And so we're in post-production as we speak. And my intention is to have the film ready by the end of this year or early spring of 2024 at the latest. And so I am literally also telling a story, and it would be the story of self-acceptance and healing, transformation, and self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness. So that's the story.
Would you say that that's what you're focused on in your personal life as well right now?
In my personal life, I would say I'm also focused on letting go of that which doesn't work and really stepping into a greater space of expression. I'm in my personal life, I'm expanding. So I'm really claiming a more expansive space for self-expression, for creativity, for the spoken word, for all the things again that I love to do, just kicking it up a notch, and not being afraid to be seen and heard, to really be seen and heard, because I now know and trust that there is an audience for what I want to share. There is a need for it, and the people that this will be right for will be drawn to me, and I will be drawn to them. We're drawn to each other. So to stand in that and to be fearless and unapologetic about it, that's what's happening in my personal life.
Being unapologetic about who you are,
That's right. That's right.
And so for that audience that, you're speaking of, and even us as a youth and our crowd that we're going to share this with, and like that we want others to hear and gravitate towards, what would be your biggest piece of advice to sort of keep walking towards and in your purpose, and to stay encouraged for us that are just starting out in it?
I would say trust yourself, love yourself, and in no way ever compromise that, ever, because that's too high a price to pay to be inauthentic. Always be true to yourself. And I know we hear that a million times. However, few people really have the courage to do that, because most people are so embedded, especially in our society now. And our young people, the two of you brilliant, beautiful young women, before me, the pressure, I can't imagine what it would be like to be your age now, because I just see the pressure of social media, the pressure. I mean, I just saw a picture, I won't say her name, she's a very famous woman, um, and she's changed so much, from how she first came on the scene to the way she looks now. And you can just, all the plastic surgery and just even the posts, it's not real. I'm looking at this picture going, what happened to you? Who are you? Who is this? What is this? And so the world doesn't need any more fake stuff. We've overpolluted this planet with plastic, and now we're polluting our bodies with plastic. So I would say to young people, have the courage to be who you are. Know that you are enough. If each person could really see themselves as they really are, how magnificent they really are, what geniuses reside within all of our own consciousness, man, we would fall at our own feet, and so do not compromise yourself. And when you feel something deep within, trust that, respect that, and don't ever be afraid to walk away from something if it's not right for you. That's what I would say.
So perfectly said. You have any other questions?
I guess my last real question, because you're answering these so beautifully, it's just I
Oh,
love every answer. My last question would be, actually not last, it's like second to last. It'll be, have you accomplished this under vision boards, manifestation? Have you written this down? Is this just been a constant everyday thought that you just acted on? I guess spiritually, how have you executed this?
sure. For me, it comes through meditation. It really sometimes, and I'll be honest, vision boards and all of those things are great techniques, and I know they work for many people. It doesn't really work for me because it gets in my way when I put pictures up. And I've done it, and I have beautiful pictures actually that are stunning, and I have them. I can't really say that I gravitate towards them or that they really serve me. What serves me is the silence. What serves me is a walk along the beach or go hiking, in nature. Those are the things that serve me. What really serves me is when I'm quiet, and I can really download and listen and hear the voice of inspiration, if you will. And sometimes it might be a thought, it might be an idea. For instance, the film that we just shot, and I'm in the process of editing with an editor, the opening is so funny. One day I wasn't even thinking about it. And then I just caught the vision of what I wanted to do for the opening. And it worked perfectly. Sometimes I'm meditating, and when I meditate, it's sometimes I may have a question, but lately what's been working for me is just for me to be quiet and to simply, I might go, okay, creator, I am ready. Download, tell me whatever I need to know. Here I am. And guaranteed, if I need to know something about the film, it'll come through. If I need to know something about an audition, it'll come through. Whatever it is, so that's my process, so and I think what I like to say too, lastly, is, if for anyone listening to this, it's not, I'm not advocating copying what I do, but the principle is self-respect, self-acceptance, and self-love. Those are the principles. So with that, someone might say, well, creating vision boards, that's my thing. It works for me. And it's like, right on, because you're listening to yourself and you're trusting what's right for you. So that's the principle. With that in place, then you are inspired, whether it's a walk on the beach, whether it's the vision board or manifestation, visualizations, whatever it is you're inspired to do. The basis of it is self-love, self-respect, self-acceptance. So those are the principles with which I work. And then what we each do, well, we each do what we are called to do. And that's a good thing because it's diverse and it's, it's plentiful. So I hope that was clear because I never want to say to people, do it this way. I'm just sharing what's worked for me. And all the listener has to do is identify the principles that I'm talking about, and the principles I'm talking about is love, self-acceptance, healing, forgiveness, beauty. Those are the principles. So whatever I do, my intention is to make sure that whatever I'm doing is embedded in one of those principles or as many of them as possible.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I'm I'm a vision board person, which is why I asked. I just wanted to know.
Yes.
But I do like to meditate. It's I obviously I love to meditate, but I am I gravitate towards vision boards to be able to visualize
Beautiful.
the vibe and the love and the self-acceptance and all those things.
That's right. Sounds
Yeah.
like vision boards are your form of meditation in some ways, right?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Definitely are. Tiff, do you have any other questions?
No, I think I got mine in. You said you had another one, right? Or no?
Yes, I do have one last question for you, which is,
Oh, sure.
yes. Okay. So in the future, what would be, because I'm like, you're producing a film for your one woman show, which was a play. So I'm like, that's already a lot of progression. So where would you like to take your creative ventures in the future? What is something really big for you?
Oh my goodness. One of the things I want to do is establish a wellness center for young people, where a young person could drop in and receive some holistic practices, whether it's doing art, whether it could be visual arts, graphic design, it could be dance, gardening, culinary arts. But I want to really create a wellness center, where all these things can take place. And I want to do it, nationally, internationally. So I'm actually working on that now, and I've put together a proposal that I've given to different people. So we'll see, who's going to come on board and say, yeah, I want to do that with you, because I think it's a beautiful vision and we need it right now. So that's something that's on the works. And then create new group homes for young people, for those who need safe spaces to live, things of that nature. And of course, tell stories. We're working on a theatrical piece called Tales from the Cell Block. And it would be our experiences working in the juvenile system, so not taking the juvenile stories, but our stories, all the artists that I've trained. And that's coming along really well, Tales from the Cell Block. So there's a lot of different things happening.
So my name is Esa Lewis. I am currently one of the co-executive producers on Grownish. I've been writing for 5 years. I started my writing career on Blackish, the 5th season of the show. I went from Blackish to Black AF. Went from Black AF to Intergalactic, which was an animation we did on Netflix with Kid Cudi. I went back to Blackish after Intergalactic, and I was on Blackish the last 2 seasons, and then I have been on Grownish the last 2 seasons. And then in between there, I have some development with Netflix, with Lauren London, and did some stuff, did a remake for Gabrielle Union for Warner Brothers with a writing partner. So I've been a busy little bee over the last 5 years. Those are my credits. That's my life. That's what I got.
A good thing. So I actually did read that you were friends with Kenya since like junior high school.
Yeah, so Kenya and I, when we went to John Burroughs Junior High School together. And it's interesting, I don't know if you guys have read Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, but Malcolm Gladwell, I know you're familiar with him, but he's he writes these books that are insane, and Outliers was sort of his foray into understanding like success and how success and opportunity and success and environment sort of play together. And I bring it up because I think that there are these pockets in culture where something's in the water, and then sort of like what ends up coming out of it are these people or these opportunities. And so LA, I would say in the late 80s to early 90s, being in the Los Angeles Unified School District, for some reason, it was like a hotbed for a lot of people that eventually found themselves in entertainment. And so Kenya and I are a part of a bigger group of people that I think were young at that time that happened to befriend each other, and that later in life found ourselves in the same industry. But yeah, I've known him since I was 13.
I love that. Like, you knew him, but you still had to work your way up to your position that you're in now. And
Well, sort of. So mine is a little bit of a different story. I went to Howard and I thought I was going to be an entertainment attorney on the music side. And so that was all. I'm like, ask me anything. I'm a music girl. I'm your girl. And when I left Howard and started working at Def Jam in LA, I realized when I understood what the business was, especially back then, it was essentially like being an entertainment attorney for artists would have been like being a civil rights attorney in terms of the way you have to sort of go about making sure that they're getting fair treatment. Even now, I mean, there's a ton of fighting now with streaming. So I was like, oh, I can't do that. Like, you know, what do I look like doing that? So I left, sort of did a bunch of different things, went and worked at the Wayans brothers, figured out like writing was kind of an interesting thing, honestly, because it paid so well. And I just was like, why are they paying these people so much money to write? I didn't really understand that that was a real opportunity or option for me career wise. And so I stayed on that show for 4 seasons. And then the last year I was a receptionist. And the last year I started teaching myself writing, and they bought my spec script. And then the show got canceled. So had we come back for a season 6, I would have been staffed as a staff writer. That sort of catapulted me into working at Warner. And I worked on the development side, ironically enough. So essentially I became, I was a junior member of a team that was hiring writers. So I was able to understand from the inside out what made a writer attractive to a network or a studio. And then I got pregnant with my daughter, Harlem. And that sort of caused me to go back to music because that was kind of where most of my relationships were. So I didn't really have a straight path to writing, honestly. But it kind of goes back to the Kenya part of what you were just saying, which is what triggered my response. Kenya was probably one of the only, I had a lot of friends in writing or that were writing. Then it started getting sort of scarce for people of color. There was like a time in entertainment where, you know, we had a bunch of Black shows and there were like hardly any Black shows. And Kenya was really blessed. He's really, really talented, and he kept writing. So from college till now, he's been writing. He didn't have a break in his career, thankfully. And I went back to music for a while, and I was just like, shit is just too volatile. So I ended up going into advertising, stumbled my way through, and was advertising for well over a decade. And when Blackish hit, when Kenya got Blackish, he called me and he was like, yo, do you want to come be a writer's assistant? Like, I got one. And I was like, nah, no, bro. I got a parking space. I got a key fob. I got some insurance. I might not be making a lot of bread, but like, I know my check is coming every 2 weeks. I got this kid in private school. I'm not about to play these reindeer games with you. I'm not doing it. He was like, all right. Season 2, Blackish is a smash. It's a smash. East, nope. Got a bigger office, got an assistant, and I did that for 4 years. For 4 years, I told him no. And to his credit, I mean, I don't know very many people that would have continued to push and offer. And Kenya pushed and offered, and not just with me. Like, that's who he is, which, you know, I'm always happy to sort of put that in the environment, because I've never seen across, you know, work verticals, advertising, music, TV, film. I have never seen anyone do so much for people behind the scenes, people of color and women. I've never seen it. And he was committed to not allowing me to die on the vine in advertising. And his fourth season, Grownish, he's getting ready. I think he just launched Grownish, and he had an opportunity that came up with this book, and he was like, I need you to help me. I just need you to edit. And he kind of like Geppettoed the situation in a way and sort of got, and I was like, yeah, I could edit. That's cool. I can do it. Cause by this time I'm a group account director in advertising, which is how I met your mother. And he ended up firing the person that I was working with. So he's like, well, you got to do it. And I was like, I can't do this. What are you talking about? But it was novel writing. It wasn't script writing. I hadn't written a script at that point in like 12, 13 years. And, but he sort of opened me back up to the idea that writing could be a possibility for my life. My daughter was entering her senior year in high school. And I think things were sort of colliding in a way to where my fear of being a single parent and wanting to make sure I got her across the threshold of the kind of school that I wanted her to be at and kind of getting her through the system was kind of not an issue anymore. And I really didn't have anything that was like holding me back. We knew she was going to Howard. And he called me in 2018 and was like, yo, I'm gonna ask you one more time. He's like, do you have any interest in writing on any of these damn shows? And I was like, and my spirit was like, do not tell him no. And I was like, so I'm in the bathroom of my office, like, what do you mean I can't tell him no? I don't want to write. I don't want to write. It's excruciating. So making a long story long, I was like, I don't know if I can curse on this, but I was like, cool, I'll do it. As if I was doing him a favor. And, I found the dustiest spec script. I mean, it was from 2006. And thankfully it was reasonable enough for people not to laugh me out of the meetings. And I met with the showrunners, one of whom I knew since, or I knew when I was on Wayans Brothers. So it was a lot of things that were like sort of aligning themselves. But I didn't always want to write. I didn't go to school to write. Wasn't a part of a trainee program. I literally was the benefactor of someone who saw something in me and was unwilling to allow me to not pursue it. Which is why hopefully, as my career evolves, I'll be able to do the same, because I just wouldn't be writing if it wasn't for Kenya.
Wow. You told that so well, because, and in my head, I'm thinking the whole time, because you actually did what seems to be a long story. You did make it pretty short. And in my head, I'm thinking with like our audience and youth trying to cultivate that community of like-minded creatives and just with good intent and just want to collaborate and things like that. During that navigating just life, because you had one plan and you were getting opportunities and you were saying no or yes at times. Mm-hmm. What along the way what encouraged you, with just things that you may have faced, and you can talk about whether it's as a Black woman, discrimination within the work field, and I know within the industry of production in general can be a lot. Mm-hmm. I would imagine. What kept you encouraged, and then what also led you to just make your decision making and then be blessed with that alignment of just things working out?
So you're talking about what were kind of like, what was my journey before I decided to jump out of the window and start writing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that I always knew that I'm pretty spiritual. And so from being a child, I always knew there was something for me to do. I just never knew what it was. And I actually thought it was music. I thought I was supposed to be in music. You go to a Black college, so you try to sing or rap or something. And then when you realize you're not really that great, then you just decide that you're going to be, in that field or in an entertainment field some kind of way. And law felt right to me. But I had such a deep love for music that I thought it was going to be music. But I couldn't ever really sustain myself in music. Like I couldn't quite turn the corner on, I was a general manager at an independent label distributed through Universal, and I worked at Def Jam, and there was something about these structures that I just could not the 90s were a different time, and thank God, it was a certain type of person that I think could exceed in entertainment at that time. There was a certain kind of thick skin you'd have to have, because the way that the world works now, I don't know if any of you guys would be able to really like thug it out back then. It was a different world, which is a different conversation. But I think that there's a knowingness. I think when I realized that music was more of a passion than a purpose, and what made me understand that was my inability to sustain myself from that as a result. Like, I think God put it in my life to be able to enjoy, for it to be an escape. I mean, I've been really, really blessed to meet some of the biggest songwriters. I mean, I met a lot of people in my life, like some of the biggest songwriters, some of the biggest artists ever, of all time ever. And in those meetings, I was able to kind of gush and express my gratitude and talk music with these people, which was really all I wanted to do. So I started to understand that this isn't it may be a gift that I can understand music the way that I do without being a musician, but this isn't necessarily what my contribution to the world is supposed to be. And so I think I felt like, I don't think that I realized that writing was probably more of my calling until I started writing. So the thing that sort of propelled me forward was the feeling that I wasn't exactly where I was supposed to be, and I didn't know where that was, but I knew it wasn't where I was. And here was someone who I trusted, who's known me forever, who was really serious about pushing me towards something that he saw, and I trusted him, and I trusted the feeling that I had. And those weren't the same, right? So me trusting him didn't necessarily equate to me knowing that this is what I was supposed to do. But what I was clear about was I wasn't supposed to stay where I am. So I guess what I'm trying to impress upon anyone that hears this is that it's not always going to sync up the way that you think, but the things that you know, you got to use the things that you know. So I knew I wasn't supposed to be where I was at. And I knew that the person that was pulling me into a situation had my back. And then I think, so that was what kind of like propelled me to jump. Also, I feel like all of the excuses that I had, God had sort of like plucked them out of my life. You know what I mean? So like, again, my daughter being a senior, getting ready to go to college, not needing to be in the house, not needing to depend on me in the way that she had prior, would have been something that I would have totally hid behind. So when you start to look around and you realize that the things that you're using as crutches are no longer crutches, and you're sort of exposed to kind of lean forward, to me, that's the best setting for you to make your leap. And then I think your other question was about, once I made the leap, what were some of the inspirations? And I think in terms of like struggles and obstacles, they're everywhere, right? So whether, I mean, Black woman for sure, I've really been fortunate. I don't really think that I tapped into anything relating to being a Black woman in terms of being like a struggle externally, not even externally, but just in general, until I started writing. Because what I realized when I started writing at this big old age is that Black women for sure, but Black women in particularly, do not get opportunities to do redos. You got to pick early and you got to pick right, historically, right? Like, your parents go to college or don't go to college. Your parent, your father or your mother plays sports. They don't play. Whatever they figure out around 18, between 18 and 20 tends to be the shit that you rock with. And whereas white men, I'm a CEO of a company, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna hit 50. I'm gonna go open a skate shop. I'm gonna go get into cupcakes. I'm gonna go start dealing with Pokemon cards and you know what I'm saying? Like, they can reimagine their lives and have a second life, and it be lucrative. How many Black women in real life can you say you've seen do that? So I think in terms of like the things that might have kept me down, it was really, I was fortunate enough, it was really just my own, the limitations in the way that I was looking at my life, and, the way that I was relating to myself were probably more of the hindrances than environmental hindrances. And then when I got on the other side of it, the affirmation came because there was a lot of wind behind my wings. So it was sort of like I wasn't swimming upstream anymore. You know what I'm saying? I was what my superpower was the life that I had lived and my willingness to share my life experiences and be vulnerable in front of strangers and, try to find the best stories to tell that way. And I was just able to kind of like, I've been gliding. The writer's strike really is the first time that I haven't been working, and it's not because I don't have a job, it's because the industry is sort of shut down. But I think, yeah, so I would say my inspiration to stay or to do or to keep doing it, is my daughter, because I want her to know that you can get a do-over, that her mom is living in the midst of a prayer answered, and that I'm living a do-over that most people don't see for themselves, but is 1,000,000% possible. It's probably more probable to win a smaller lottery than to have a successful writing career in your mid-40s. You know what I'm saying? As a Black woman, you know what I'm saying? Like in a world where youth culture is like the shit. Can I curse on here? Is that a bad thing? I curse a lot. I'm really restraining myself.
You're good. You're good. Go ahead.
Restraining myself greatly. But it was her because I wanted her to know, I wanted her to have a living example, because I don't know what her life will be. That you can get it off. If you really believe that you can do it. And I used to hear people say that, and I'm like, that's the corniest shit. It's so corny. People tell you, if you believe you can, like, it's so corny, but it's so real. It's so real. It's so real. So that, and then my daughter, and then I think just to sort of, in the best way that I can, honor the gifts that I've been given, because I understand that gifts are not, if you're given something, it's not yours to hoard, it's yours to share. It's almost your obligation. And there's something about, for me, God putting me in the place that I'm in at this season in my life, as opposed to 20 something years ago when I was like sort of thinking about this. There's a reason why my life looks the way that it does. So I want to make sure that through the work that I do and the stories that I tell, and being able to be a part of shows that are like, on trend or like culturally relevant, and not like the sister girl auntie shows, even though I might be categorized in some circles as a sister girl auntie. Like, it's cool to write stuff that my daughter laughs at. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's cool to write, to have a voice that, women your age can kind of like align with. So I think those are probably the things that motivate me.
Would you say that like you write from your story progressing as a Black woman? Would you say that these are kind of imaginative scenarios? Are they based on other people's stories? Where do you kind of get your specific writings from? How do you navigate?
So yeah, that's a good question. I get that question a lot. Because I've written, so I think that the story, so let me take a step back. Writers' rooms are very collaborative most of the time, if they're a reasonable room. We have really big rooms because our show orders are big. So I've only had small rooms a couple of times, and small being like 6 to 8 people. Grown is just like 14 people. Black is just like 17, 18 people in a room. So you kind of know, especially if you're not on a show that is a pilot, like it's a season 1 show, that there are some things that you sort of owe with regard to your characters, your character arcs for the season. So essentially what's happening is that we all come to the table with a loose knowledge of, like, we watched the last season, so we know what sort of worked for the audience and worked for the network and worked for Kenya and worked for whomever. And so you sort of start to come in and like pitch stories that you think could be interesting for these characters to participate in. Those stories are coming from your life, or stories that you've heard that you have some kind of like connection to, or that was so interesting to you that even if it had nothing to do with you, it's worth bringing to the table. So I think a lot of what you are contributing to in a room is coming from your life, though. My life, I mean, I've aired Harlem's Business out in rooms. I have aired my mother, my brother, my boyfriend, like I've aired them out in a room, because that's the only way that you find, ooh, you know what I mean? Like, there are Blackish episodes that you know, like there was a there was a moment where um I part of my decompressing when I'm at home minding my business is to be in my room, and I might do a music video. I might turn on a song and do a little choreo in my room by myself. And my daughter knew that about me. And one time it was right after Beychella, and there was a little part of her performance that I really enjoyed, and I was reenacting it in the privacy of my own bedroom. And as I'm like going through the whole like, you know, the whole choreography, I look and I see Harlem's ass. The door is like closed, but just a little bit is it open. And I see her little eye, and she's videotaping me. She's videotaping me, my child, whom I put through college. And I was like, okay. And I can't remember what we were telling, what the whole episode was, but Tracy ended up doing that in an episode of Blackish, because it just was funny, and everyone sort of, you know, resonated with it and found it funny. And everyone also had these little quirky things that they do, like they hope their kids don't see them doing or whatever, and it just became like a conversation. And those are the things that we sort of like develop story from. So I think, to answer your question, stories coming from me, the stories that are most about, that I have most control over, at least in the rudimentary stages, are ones that are not necessarily a part of a scripted, like episodic TV show, because there's stuff that you owe, and there's so many voices that are in the room, that your story gets put into the pot and then it gets massaged and turns into, you know, something else. But when I have done like the stuff that we did for Gabrielle, we remade Yes Man, the Yes Man movie for Gabrielle. And that was more reflective of my life and, you know, my relationship with my daughter. So I think it just depends on what I'm doing. But I'm in everything.
I also wanted to bring up, because this is like a progressive journey, as you said, like you weren't doing this, or you weren't even really thinking about it when you were in the music industry, even when you were studying at Howard. But like, what would you say when you were younger you saw yourself doing before you even got to college?
Oh, I wanted to be an entertainment attorney. In 7th grade, I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I don't know why, but I was so into music, and I was so, I didn't really trust my natural talent to play or to sing or anything. So I was like, the closest I can get to music and it being like, you know, within reason, and then being able to have some notoriety and being able to work with the people that I wanted would be through law. So that was from 7th grade, that was my plan.
And then, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Because this kind of goes back to what, because our whole purpose for this month's, I guess, like outreach to our community is like stories from the heart. So you're saying like you're literally, the stories you write will be stories of your real life and of things that you experience. And so within that, how important is authenticity and how it shows up in your work? And then how hard is it sometimes that you don't lose the authenticity that comes with it?
So I think authenticity is probably, you know, at the base of what we all do, right? Like, I think just being an authentic human is important. So certainly having authenticity sort of come through your work is vitally important. But it's the tricky part of what we do, because, you know, I was having a conversation last night with someone who has been writing a lot longer than me, two people actually at different points in the day. And they were like, you know, do you feel like you found your voice? Like both conversations were about my voice. And I'm still looking for it, you know, like in a weird way. Like, it's so much easier when we get off the Zoom, you'll have a pretty significant idea of like my vibe, or like, you know what I mean? Like, you'll know I am a lot like who I am presenting myself as in this moment. You know what I mean? Like, give or take. And Writing though is so different, even though you don't want it to be, but it's different because you have different people that need to say things the way that they would say it, even though it might be your idea, right? And so there is a signature that we all have as creators that we're trying to bring forward in the work. And the work that I am most connect to is when I can hear the writer in someone else's mouth and know though that it's still the character that they have written for. It's such a when you know that it's magic. And so I think that so finding authenticity is wildly important, and maintaining it. I think it's like fluid, and I think it's like an evolution. I think because as you grow as a person, you have more experiences, then if you are authentically connected to yourself, then that'll come through, and it might look different though than what it did 2 years ago or what it'll look like 2 years from now. But I think authenticity sustains you, and it's a part of your signature. And I think without it, you become a worker. You become someone who can execute on things, but not necessarily someone that has a signature or has something that people want to hear. You want people to hear. You want people to want to hear from you. You know what I'm saying? It could be the same topic that 20 people talk about, but you want people to be like, well, what did Perris think about that? What did Tiffany think about that? So authenticity is important.
What would you say, like, besides the fact that you're still like finding your voice, would be like your biggest lesson you're learning right now? Maybe that's creatively in your like everyday life, whatever.
The biggest lesson I'm learning right now is to be okay being uncomfortable. We do a lot as people to not be uncomfortable. And in the discomfort are most of your lessons, almost all of your lessons, I would say. And I think that that goes personally, that goes professionally. I think that goes, relationally. I think that if you can stand being uncomfortable, you can probably do most things that you can imagine yourself doing. And I think that it's in the discomfort that we ask different kinds of questions, that we get different kinds of answers, and we're able to bring that through the art. And then as a person and as a woman, I think being uncomfortable, if you have a desire to be connected to something greater than yourself, if you believe in something greater than yourself, that's where I think real trust and faith is birthed in that discomfort. So that's probably what I would say is the dumb lesson I'm having to learn currently.
Not even dumb. That's so true though. Like literally most lessons do come in the discomfort. So I agree.
That's hard.
Yes, thank you for that. I think my like one last question, I don't know if you have any more, P, but just I guess with one last piece of advice for kind of the youth coming up and creators that are breaking into things or trying to express whatever it be, their message or their purpose. What's just like a piece of advice for us starting out?
I would say that creatives, storytellers no longer have the luxury of just being that. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist anymore. You have to understand the business that you're in. You have to understand audience consumption. You have to understand how streaming works. You have to understand the business. There is no way you can survive as just a storyteller, as a creative. And I think the more that you understand about the business, the less you'll have to be reliant on, certain managerial duties or certain agency duties. I mean, you still will need at least an agent, and you'll always need a lawyer unless you go to law school, to help you navigate the world and opportunities and make sound choices. But you got to know your shit. You got to read the trades, get acquainted and get familiar with the things that you think you want to activate someone else to do on your behalf. You can't do it because you won't. There's so many moving pieces. I remember we were having a conversation when I was in advertising with Van Jones. He came in, he was a client of the agency that I was working at for a little bit. And he was telling us how, the different times in culture, there was the Ice Age, and then there was the Information Age, and there was the Stone Age, and all these different, I'm saying them out of order. But he said when we got to the technological age, there was a point where we were running towards technology. And this is a 10-year-old conversation. And he said back then, he was like, now we're at a place where technology is running towards us. And the people that will survive and thrive are the ones that just know how to pivot. You're just gonna have to know how to get fluid. AI is here. There's all kind of stuff that's not going anywhere. And if you want to maintain the integrity of what you do, you got to know the business that you're in. So that would be the biggest, loudest thing I can say. Don't just watch movies that you like. Look at the box office. Don't just listen to songs that you like. Don't just think that you're doing something because you're on the BBC channel and you're watching, French films, and you're watching, Korean television, or you're watching these indie things. Figure out how they got made, figure out what studios, what streaming platforms are making them, figure out where the holes are in the ecosystem. Like, you're gonna have to, even if it's not your strong suit, work on it so that you're at least moderately dangerous. You don't have to make this your primary focus, but you can't, especially as Black people, you can't walk in that room and not understand what it is that you're doing. Because as a creative, as a storyteller, it's no different than being a recording artist. And in that instance, you are a small business owner and you are asking a studio or a streamer or a label to invest in you. Black AF cost, if it cost $7 million to do an episode, which is high, and we did 8 episodes, that's $56 million. In success, we had 5 seasons of that. Going towards $500 million that they would have to spend on creating this show. So at the very least, if you're doing a show and you get 8 episodes and you have a $5 million budget, it's $40 million that you're asking a network to invest in your pilot idea. So understand what you're asking. Understand what's competitive, understand what the right format is to deliver things in, understand what the right way, do research. You know what I'm saying? Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to do research. But this is a business. This is a business, and all that other shit is not it. So just understand that, and don't be swayed or dissuaded from pursuing a career in entertainment, but understand what it is that you're getting into so that you can make the best possible choices. Russell Simmons a long time ago told me the people that are the most successful in entertainment are the ones whose lives do not depend on it. And so the starving artist shit is cool, but like, have a job, so.
Have a job.
That'd be my advice.
Yes, thank you for that.
Great advice. Really great.
Thank you. Do you have any other?
I do. So my last question for you is going to be, where do you see yourself taking your story in the future, whether that be more writing, a different writing venture, something completely crazy?
I think because I started so late in the game, I just want to maybe get like a show off. Like, I would love to have a show that I've developed that can go, for some seasons, as long as it's culturally impactful. That would be the amount of time I'd want it to be in the world. I think in a broader sense, I would love ultimately for my contribution to be one that shows Black women comedically in a different light. I think there are a couple notes that we play a lot. And I'm like personally, I love like The Hangover. I love Talladega Nights. I love Due Date. I love big comedies that are like stupid and ignorant and fun and broad. And I don't think that people of color get those kinds of shots. I think that our interpretation of that, or the interpretation that exists for stories like that when they deal with us, are like broad and a little bit ghetto. They're not like Bridesmaids. Hilarious. hilarious. And instead of, Amy Poehler and Tina Fey and all those amazing actresses, of course, the phone wants to ring the one time that it's going to keep ringing. Do you want me to get up and or is this going to mess up your
No worries,
moment?
do what you need to do. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So, hold on.
I love that we there's always the advice of follow your heart and all those beautiful things, but there's also the business side. That's the first time we've gotten it.
Sorry, that was so ghetto. Who has a home phone and whose home phone rings during a damn anyway? Can you imagine? So I don't know. Did you guys see Bridesmaids?
Yes.
Okay. So hilarious. What if in that movie was Issa Rae and Natasha Rothwell and Z-Way? You know what I'm saying? What would that have been? It wouldn't have been, would it have been written as chaotic and as over the top, or would it have been a little, girl, would it have been that? And there's nothing wrong with that, but I also don't have, my experiences are not necessarily why he did, that's not necessarily the experiences that I've had. And so in a larger sense, I would love to be able to introduce something that's commercially successful comedically, that gives us just one additional shade of humor, so that as people are coming after me, they know that they can write those kind of movies for us, and they'll work. So I think that's the bigger pie in the sky. When I look back and I'm really old, I would love for that to be something that I was a part of being able to do. But I think in the short term, it would just be, to get my reps up. I'm happy in a room. That's where you learn a lot. It's where you meet people. It's where you see how other people tell stories. It's where you get inspired, and you form the relationships that ultimately will come in handy when you have your own show. And then bigger picture would be to maybe just add something to the Mount Rushmore of Black comedies driven by women that are not hood and fucking edge controlled.
Right, literally. I love that.
My name is Michael Silvera. I'm from the Bronx. I call myself the Arnold Palmer because I'm from the Bronx in Jersey. I moved to New Jersey when I was 13, and then my high school years was all in Jersey. And it's my young adult years, going into 20, 24, 25. I went to college in Jersey, and then I moved to LA in 2020 during the COVID migration, is what I call it. Uh, and yeah, a lot of my story derives from the Bronx, which is why I cling to that. When people be like, "Where you from?" I'm like, "I'm from the Bronx," and then some of my friends pick on me like, "Nah, you from Jersey, bro? Like, you from Jersey?" I said, "Yeah, my teenage years was in Jersey, but my story starts in the Bronx, and a lot of the way I carry myself, a lot of my swag, and a lot of how I treat people, the humbleness in which I carry in my heart, is coming from the Bronx, and that's not a Jersey thing. That's a New York Bronx, crazy poverty, not a lot of resources. I got my education level is super low. I didn't learn how to write an essay until I was in college. I got left back my freshman year in high school in Jersey. Um, and yeah, the toughness that I got from my childhood really defined my life, you know. Um, and without that that sharpening or that toughness that came from that upbringing, I would be Mike for real. I wouldn't be this Mike at least. Um, but yeah, like I said, my name is Mike from the Bronx, New Jersey. Um, I'm a photographer. Um, I focus on civic engagement, and if people who don't know what civic engagement is, it's getting people together for a purpose. Um, and you know, that's about it. that's like really what I do. And on the creative side, I would say on the highest level, I'm a creative director. So if somebody has a business or idea, I will consult them and help them like put together the idea and make it make sense for the customer, for the consumer. Um, and just listen to people and listen to what they think about their customer and who they want to connect with, and helping them find like that thread. Like this is how you're gonna really touch this customer. This is how you're really gonna touch this person, um, with X, Y, and Z. So I would say civic engagement, photographer, and then creative director. That would be on top three.
Nice. And you said with the, growing up Jersey, Bronx, where in that did like kind of the creative endeavors come in or like stem from? And then where did you start to put together in your head, like, and in your heart, this is what's for me and how can I move from here? Like, what was that introduction?
I feel like my whole family has been like closet creative, where like they may not have seen it as like something that's creative, but like me and my brothers were inspired by it. Like my dad is like a DJ, but like on the technical tip, like he builds speakers. Like he builds like sound sets. It's a very Jamaican thing. They call it sound, where like they have like the speakers stacked on top of each other. Like we will like put it on the beach, and then like the Jamaican people, I'm sure it's more than Jamaicans, but it's definitely like a part of Jamaican culture, where like we would like blast speakers on the beach, and like it's a competition. So whoever has the best sound, like in terms of like mixing and frequencies, not just like loudness, wins the competition. And usually it's like a cash prize, or sometimes if it's not cash, then it'll be like a trophy, some memorabilia. But that's what my dad does. And my dad is also like a plumber, electrician. He's super good with his hands. Um, and I always thought like the way that he like interacted with his craft was like so skillful that it was art. It was like only you can do it the way you do. Like he'll go in your house and he'd be like, "Yo, like my toilet is not working." He'd be like, "All right, 1 second," and he would just with like comfort and confidence, he would touch your toilet and fix it in like 30 minutes. You know what I mean? With like a smile on his face, and like he does this thing where he like bites his lip like this when he's working. Like you would think like he's like think he's sexy or something, but like he'd be like so he'd be like fixing stuff. He'd be like you see like the focus and like passion in his eyes. You know what I mean? And then something like that, like yo, like you really so nice at this. Like it's like an art, like you know. So I got that from my dad. I'm gonna make 3 points about this statement, like where I got inspired to be creative. My dad, like his passion to do like mundane things, like fix a toilet, right? And then like me and my mom would dance together. We There was something that my church used to do. It was called oldies but goodies, and pretty much it was like a show, like a dance show, a performance, like a dance performance that like regular people will be performing like to these songs, but we'll put together like choreography and like dance in front of like a whole bunch of crowd of people, type of thing. And me, my mom, and my brothers and other like my fake, not fake, they my real aunties, but they're not my blood aunties. Like my church aunties, we will all dance like on stage together. And I'm talking about like I'm like 7. It's like I'm like a child, you know. Uh, and we would like learn the choreography in like the middle of a park, and like we'll have a little speaker and we'll dance and we'll practice, and then we'll go on stage and we'll perform, you know. And we did that every year. And the whole thing was, for these but goodies, you were only able to perform songs that were 20 years old. So like that was also important for me. There's like a little side note, but it was also important for me to kind of like understanding culture and like understand like what the path that was laid before me in terms of at least music at the most, bare minimum sense. Like I'm like, oh, like this is the music y'all was listening to 20 years ago. Like yeah, like I'm 7, and my auntie like, yeah, we listen to this when I was like, I was 20 and I was listening to this. I'm like, I'm like, it's kind of cool. I like this, and we danced to it. So that I would say that's like the second way I got introduced to like kind of creativity, you know. And I would say creativity in like in terms of like practicing it, because I feel like some people are like creative, but like my dad was always working, me and my mom was always dancing, and then even when we were dancing, we were like practicing. So like we're like actively trying to do this instead of just like, oh, I painted this painting, I just happened to paint something. You know what I mean? And then I'll say the third thing that kind of like got me started in like being creative is, and probably really the number one thing, because it stems from everything, is church. Um, there's so much like performance in church and so much like art in church. Like me and the homies, you probably could hear him in the back. He blasting his music, but he was just saying the other day, like, yo, preachers is really rappers. Like they be like, Jesus, and you see the church and the choir in the background doing the ad libs, like hallelujah. Like it's really just like one big like freestyle. Like he just freestyling about God, like, you know what I mean? So I think I just like took in church and I was like, wow, like look at this, like this is production. Like it's art. Like it's literally like art, how you present. Like you can just be like, yo, like God loves you. Or you can be like, God loves you. Like, you know what I mean? Like that like performance is like that really resonated with me. Like I'm like, yo, like I went to like a good church and a bad church. So like, I had like even like examples. I'm like, this church kind of booty. Like they don't got that. They don't got it. Like these don't got the energy, you know? And then like another church, I'm like, yo, he preaching. Like he preaching. Like he hitting. So I'll say like church is definitely like my number one inspiration of like just like a lot of things in my life, but definitely like it sparked like creativity. Not necessarily thinking like, oh, I want to be an artist in any sort of way, but more so just like it's normal to be an artist. Like to be an artist is like not even like an effort. It's like this is my life. Like, you know what I mean? And like I dance, or like I'm a sing even though I can't hold a note. No, I'm gonna sing because I'm a sing. Like that's it. Like it's not with the intention to be good. It's with the like I'm singing, you know. So I'll say that was my top three like shadow inspirations, or like, yeah, like inspirations without like blindside inspirations. Like, I didn't even know I was getting inspired at that moment, but like in hindsight, as this man I am today, I'm like, wow, that really inspired me. Like that really like drove me to move through life how I'm moving it right now.
I love that. I was gonna, sorry, P, did you have something?
Well, I was gonna bring up Not Too Cool to Care and like how that started and how that got brought up. But like really it's even your barbecues, like I can't think of the word right now, like your I'm like grilling, your outside
Cookout.
activities, your donations that you just did recently, like that all ties into what you just said. So I definitely want to hear about that.
Word. So I actually started Not Too Cool to Care in 2015 when I was in school. I have like a lot of special needs uh persons like in my life, like from family members uh to like friends. My mom's actually a special educator, and sometimes when I'm just like analyzing myself, I'll be like, I might be on a spectrum or something, or like I might have like for real. And I think a lot of people that I come across might be too, um, and just don't even know it. You know, like especially people who are like super smart and antisocial. You know, like super gifted people usually be a little, you know what I mean, little screws missing. Um, or maybe we the ones that screws missing. That's a whole different conversation. But right. But yeah, I started Not Too Cool to Care in 2015, and initially when I first did it, it was like a school project, and pretty much we were like finding different ways to make people aware of special needs, right, and how to like kind of like teach people who like maybe have kids who are like autistic hypothetically, right, and like they may not know anything about. They might have no prerequisites to deal with this child. They were just like, I'm pregnant. Oh my God, my kid has autism. Like there's no like, oh, I know I'm about to have a kid with autism. That's not what happens, right? Nobody plans that. So it's like, how can we educate people on I did on autism. How can we educate people on people who are on the spectrum, right? And I was like, well, I'm a flawed person. You feel me? I really want to say the N word right now, but I'm gonna keep it PG, right? I'm a flawed person. You feel me? So like the main way I know to communicate is through fashion and through like I said, like marketing and like ads. Like Andy Warhol's like a huge inspiration of mine, where he just uses like like really simple branding, but like it's really profound. You know what I mean? Like he'd be like, and you would always tell what it is. Like that's Andy. Like I could tell just by how like he just took the same print, printed it 3 different times with 3 different colors, and like now I'm actually looking at it. It's just the Campbell bowl of Campbell, but now like it's art and there's something more to it. But pretty much what I did was I was thinking, how can I educate the masses while also still making it like, something I would actually want to see. And that's when the idea of like not being too cool to care, and like how can we be empathetic and not be corny, you know? And growing up in New York, I feel like it was I feel like even in New Jersey too, I feel like it was corny to be caring. Like actually, like if somebody like needed help and you help them, like why are you helping them? Like they mad dirty, or like, you know what I mean? Like like don't touch them, like leave them alone, like mind your business. Like there's always like don't help somebody. Like actually like just mind your bit, mind yours, do what you got to do, and take care of yourself. We not doing all that. Like you doing too much, you know. And it was like, how can we just kill that? Like how can we just like care about each other, make it mainstream, and add it into our culture? You know what I mean? Like we have a lot of things in our culture that are not conducive to our benefit or our progression, especially the Black community. You know, like one thing I hate is like CPT time. Like I'm like, that is not cool. Like that's not culture. Like that's actually not cool. That we like known for being late. It's like, oh, niggas gonna be late, bro. Like, it's like, oh, you on CPT time. It's like, bro, that's not cool. Like that's not something that we should be like celebrating. Why are we celebrating not being man or woman of our word? Like if I say I'm gonna be there at 3 o'clock, I should be there at 2:55. I should be early and prepared to say I was gonna do whatever. I was just thinking about, how to combine mainstream culture and obscurity. So what I did was, like Supreme has like the box logo T-shirt, and it just says Supreme and all red. I was like, I bet. My idea was I'm gonna take the puzzle pieces which represent like autism, and I'm gonna like put it in place of the Supreme, right? And people are gonna think it's like some type of collab or like some like special version. And like pretty much I did a photo shoot. I had different colors of the shirt, and I had like red, blue, yellow, white, black, and I just had the puzzle piece like but on different colors. Like it was like a whole bunch of different colors. I wish I had it in my room. I definitely don't have one in LA, but pretty much what I did for the photo shoot was my goal was to educate people on how autism doesn't have a look. So I casted one of my white boy homies. I casted one of my homies, Ziggy Mac Johnson, who's actually in LA now. Shout out to Ziggy because that's my guy right there. But um, Ziggy's gay. Shout out Zig, you know what I mean? Word. So I had like my white homie. I had my black LGBT homie, which was Ziggy. I had a regular cis straight man, my homie Lefty. His name is Marcus, but his DJ name is Lefty. I have my homegirl Koi. She's like light skin. And then I have my Hispanic homegirl who's Dominican. Uh, she was a part of it. So I just had like different types of people, like different type of cultural people and different type of skin colors. And then I was kind of just saying, showing like how autism could look. And the photo shoot was showing them in the shirt, and then like them kind of like talking about who they are. Not necessarily saying that they were autistic, but kind of showing like you wouldn't even be able to tell if I was or wasn't. Like I did like a regular person, and that was like the whole campaign. And that's how Not So Cool Kid started. It started off as a not a school project really, but I guess it was. But it was more so just like the best way I was able to communicate what I stood for. Like I care about special needs kids, special needs rights in general, and like opportunities, special need opportunities. And I was like, how can we just shed light on like this culture? And then it expanded over the years to like it's bigger than just people like special needs. Like it's not too cool to care about all of us. Like it's not too cool to like be loving. It's not too cool to go against the grain when the grain is not progressive. It's not too cool to take a moment to yourself, take a breather. Uh, it's not too cool to be intentional. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think as I got older, I was like, yo, like, not too cool to care. Just first of all, it got a nice little ring to it. Like I could just keep saying it. You know what I mean? Even when I abbreviate like NTCTC, I'm like, ooh, that's kind of wavy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it sounds like a little jingle. So I'm like, wait, this is like, I think this is a great opportunity for me to like facilitate love, And it wasn't always that clear, but I think as like I grew, like so did like my vision for it. It's like, well, I can do so much healing with this. I can do a lot with this. And yeah, that was the inception. It started off 2015, school project, initially to shed light on autism, and then it just expanded. Um,
That's beautiful. There's like so many good quotes that's just you just keep flying out, and I'm like, we're trying to stay quiet because the recording, but just know we're hyped. um, but my main thing, I actually wanted to, because within just, you said caring and just producing this, like making it cool to love and to care for one another and cultivate that type of energy.
mhm.
Um, we have this like floating question for everybody we've been interviewing, but in what you're doing, where does, or how important is authenticity within creating that? I have two questions actually. Authenticity within the things you do through your work, and then also um, how important is community within it, and how have you been cultivating community to also inspire your work and to keep it going?
I think authenticity is the easiest way to replenish your energy to continue to create. It's like if I actually move from my authenticity, I never have to try to do anything. You know, like if I take a picture, for example, and I'm taking pictures of things that I like, I'll never have to try to take a picture of somebody because I'm only going to take it from the way that I actually want to take it. You know, um, I feel like authenticity is what makes you different as well. You know, um, I'll give a really cool story that I don't even get to really tell a lot. Um, but when I first started doing photography, shout out Lefty again. That's like one of my best friends. He's a DJ, DJ Lefty. Um, but Lefty was actually the person that got me to start taking pictures because I would take like fire, like outfit pictures of him. And then he'd be like, yo, I ain't gonna lie, bro. You type nice with the pictures. Like that's what it started. Like you type nice with these pictures, bro. Like I be getting likes. Like this is when 100 likes was something, back in the day. So like 2013, he like, yo, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Like you nice with the outfit pics, bro. Like, and then it started like I feel like more of my friends started like being like, yo, you can take my pic, you can take my pic, bro. Like, I'm trying to get a pic with Grant. So I'm like, I bet, I got you. And I think Lefty actually I feel like helped me get cool in New Jersey because I feel like in my opinion, in my perspective, I wasn't the coolest kid when I first moved to Jersey because I feel like New Jersey had like a paywall to get cool. It was like a little more affluent. So people like, you actually don't got the newest J's on, so I don't really think I could talk to you. You actually don't, you actually just not that fly for me to talk to you. And in my head, I'm like, I am fly. I'm just broke. Like what you talk like, you know what I mean? Like, so even that was even like a motivation. Like now in my life, I'm like, every time I step out, I'm like, I'm about to step out fly. Like I'm about to step out. Like I'm gonna do good and look good doing it. Just cause like I feel like that was something that was like, they're like, nah, you're not fly. I'm like, I'm not fly now, right? I'm like, yes. I'm like, what up? You know what I mean? Like whatever, right? So I'm going off course, right? Whatever. So pretty much what happened was Lefty got me to start taking outfit pictures, and then from there I got like me a digital camera. Cool, right? I I thought like, yo, it's gonna be that easy. I got a little camera. All I gotta do is snap the picture, and I'm good. And then I started realizing people like, yo, you gotta start editing your pictures, bro. Like I met somebody who was like more like advanced than me during college, and it was like, yo, like you don't edit your pictures? I'm like, nah, I just take a picture and edit and like just post it. He's like, bro, you gotta edit it. Like if you edit it, you could really make like some really unique pictures, and like you could like really start like, just doing different things with it, right? Effects, whatever. And I'm like, I bet let me try. So I download Photoshop. Cool. I try to work it. I'm losing my mind trying to understand how to use this program. I'm like, like I'm getting so frustrated. Like I'm like, and low key, this is like the peak of like my mental, uh, like my mental stimulation because I was in school. So I'm like, I'm mad smart. You know what I mean? Like had a 3.7 GPA. Like I was doing all right. Like that's when I learned how to write an essay in college. But like once I realized I was smart, I'm like, oh, I'm smart as fuck. Like I'm actually like catching up crazy. Like you know what I mean? Whatever. So I'm like, yo, I'm smart as hell, and I still can't learn how to use the program. So it was just really discouraging, right? I'm like, nah, I'm not about to do this photography stuff, bro. It's too much. And I was low-key about to give up. And I was like, all my homies though was like, yo, you gotta learn how to edit, bro. You gotta learn how to edit. You gotta learn how to edit. And I'm like, nah, bro, it's too much. And then pretty much, I don't even remember how I got inspired. I probably just walked into like a Walgreens or a Best Buy or something. But I saw this Polaroid camera, and I was like, oh, I was like, what if I just did only Polaroids? Like, I know that's gonna be type expensive, but like, what if I just only did Polaroids? And people was like, I don't know, like, cause like, what you gonna do? Like, you gonna give it to them? I'm like, nah, I'm keeping them. They're like, how you gonna take a Polaroid to somebody and keep them? I'm like, I'm just gonna send it a picture. I'm gonna get a picture of the Polaroid and send. You're gonna have the Polaroid in the picture form, right? And everybody was like, not like they was like, it's not gonna work. They're just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm gonna do it. So I bought me a camera for $100, the Instax 300 Fujifilm, right? And I just started wilding. Like I go to the city I'm in New York every day, taking pictures of everybody, every little influence I know. And this is like 2016 all the way to COVID. Just Polaroids. That Polaroid helped me stand out so much. Like that Polaroid camera actually got me popping. That was like when I actually got like my first taste of like adult litness. You know what I mean? Like people like, yo, you don't want the Polaroid camera, right? Like, yo, you can take my Polaroid. Yo, you can take my Polaroid. I did a campaign for it's a denim brand from Australia. It's called Subi. I did a campaign for Subi, all on Polaroid. The entire thing was on Polaroid. I did not take one digital picture. I did a campaign for Nintendo, all on Polaroid, not one digital picture. I had a event series, which I kind of want to revamp. It was called Litterbox. It was like Litterbox where all the shit goes down. And pretty much like people would pull up and it would be like 3 different type of photographers. I had one film photographer. I had my homie Max, who works at Apple now. Shout out to Max, my favorite white boy. And Max would take digitals and then I'll take Polaroids. And it was an event just about you pulling up and just getting your picture taken and living and like leaving with like content for your page. So that was like the whole point. So it was really cool. Definitely want to revamp that. That'd be crazy in LA. But I say all I have to say, right? Talking about going right, landing the plane to authenticity. It was like my authenticity was actually the thing that allowed me to shine. It wasn't like people who had edits, was editing their photos, was taking people out of their photos, adding things into their photos, and all I was doing was being myself. I'm like, yo, I can't really edit. That's just not my strong suit. And I don't really got the money to pay somebody to edit my pictures. So I got to be creative. I had to be creative about my situation more so than be creative with what I was doing. It was like, well, what is a way that I can use what I have and still make the best out of the situation? And that $100 like probably made me like 10 times that, you know? And, you know, it just allowed me to stand out. It allowed me to have my own signature look. It allowed me to have pride in what I was doing. Like I'm a photographer and I only do Polaroids. This is what I do, you know? And yeah, like I eventually put down the Polaroid. I still got a Polaroid. I'm looking at it right now. I'm actually hold on. Let me show y'all this is my latest baby right here, right?
Hey, the Polaroids.
Right? This is my latest baby. It's a
Okay.
Barbie.
Oh. Why are they so dope? It's a Barbie.
Mm-hmm.
What the?
So like things like this allowed me to be myself, right? It allowed me to be like, I have a Polaroid with me and I take it out. It's like, oh, that's Barbie. I want a picture. And it's like, you know, it was like a gimmick that allowed me to two things. Allowed me to be authentic, but allowed me to do what I really wanted to do, which was like show other people that they're beautiful. And that's why I like taking pictures. I didn't even get to that question, but I really like to show love. Like I really like to show love. It's something that I love to do. But yeah, I forgot the second question. First question was authenticity.
No worries. Yeah, I was gonna repeat it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Also really quick, if I do dip out in like 5 minutes, she'll wrap it up for us. But just so you know, I don't like throw you off. But the second one was just, and you kind of actually had it in there a little bit, but like it was about community and how cultivating it, kind of giving up the next step for youth coming up and like showing us how to do it, all that. Like what along your journey was some examples of like community and how they've guided you, helped you, and you keep shouting out your homies, like it seems to be a big part of you. So how could you
I'm always gonna be me, but my journey is nothing without the people around me. Like actually, like I have homies that like I could almost tear up. I had like homies that like saved my life just from them, their presence, and like them just being my friend, them being there to guide me and ground me when I was like floating away from like my alignment. I wouldn't even say alignment because I believe that you can. I believe alignment can be negative or positive. Like if you're smoking cigarettes every day of your life, 10 boxes a day, and then you get lung cancer, that's actually in alignment. You may not want lung cancer, but you smoking all them cigarettes every day is going there's going to be alignment to that. There's going to be a consequence. And sometimes that consequence may not be something that you want, but that don't mean that you out of alignment. You might be in alignment with the habits that you have let take over your life. Something else. I really like, man, like going back to church. I think it really is rooted in church and how my mom kind of like facilitated me interacting with my aunties and like my cousins, my fake cousins, you know, like my church cousins when I was growing up in the Bronx, you know, and how like even community kept me safe. Like I was in the hood, but like I was able to dwell in the hood safely because it was just such a crazy village of like, you know, like we were all looking out for each other. Like me and all the homies could be outside and like be straight because we was all there for each other, you know, where like people join gangs for protection. People join fraternities for brotherhood, you know? And I was just like, I just had that from birth. Like from birth, I had my brothers. From birth, I had like my church cousins. I'm not stop calling them fake. I had my church cousins. I had my church aunties. Like I had my grandmother. You know what I'm saying? Like community is like that is the net. People be like, oh, like I'm gonna jump off this cliff and hopefully a net appears. Your net is your network. You know what I'm saying? And I know network usually correlate to business, but like if let's I don't I'll just call it the village, right? It's like your village is what's gonna catch you. Your village is what's really gonna sustain you when, you know, things are not really going right. You know? Um, I really value community. I know it's obvious, but like I really value community. Even my room right now, I got a couch in my room so that like if any of my homies from New York need to come out here, they can sleep on my couch. You know what I mean? Like in my room. I don't even care. Like I don't need that much privacy. Like pull up, bro. Like there's space for you. Like I have space for you. You know, I wouldn't even be in LA right now if it wasn't for my homies in the other room. You know, like we now in this home in this crib that we all have our own rooms, and we just moved into it like not even like 3 weeks ago. But initially, I was sleeping on his couch. I was on his couch for 4 months. You know, and there was three other people in that same crib, and it was only a studio. You know, and that's just us. That was like, yo, we all here. Let's try to figure it out. Let's figure it out. We all comfortable. Like we know that, but we gonna figure it out. And we trusted each other, and we was there for each other in that way. And I wasn't even paying them. They was letting me stay there for free. So it's like, man, I didn't have enough money to really come out here. Keep it a stack with you. I didn't have enough money to come out here. I didn't have enough resources. But my village really came through for me. Um, and man, I'm eternally grateful. I'm eternally grateful. Like I'm eternally grateful. And yeah, community is everything. Community is everything. Like they destroyed it. If somebody can take apart the community, then when you're losing, you really gonna lose because there's nobody there to back you up. You know. Um, and I feel like today's society sometimes perpetuates like that like self-made mentality to a point that's almost toxic. Where it's like I'm self-made, I don't need nobody. I I'm good all by myself. And you're like, you may be, but everybody go back to zero at some point. Everybody cup don't be overflowing, and they go to zero, and you're gonna need some assistance. And at the bare minimum, you're gonna need somebody to talk to. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know. It definitely started in church. Um, it was reinforced with my friends. I did ballet for 4 years. It was reinforced then because it's like a large group of everybody. Um, and I also do ballet. I learned the value of being platonic with women. Um, and learning like really like understanding like the value of like uh the value of a relationship between a man and a woman that are not having sex, and how like powerful that unionship is as well. So yeah, I just think, yeah, shout out to friends, man. Shout out to people who become your family through your journey. Um, I have so many friends that saved my life, like literally saved my life, or extended my trip somewhere, or fed me when I didn't have no money to feed myself, or gave me advice when I thought I knew exactly what I was doing. But it was like, bro, you so lost right now. You low key looking goofy, and I might just give you a little free game because you think you on some type of, yeah, I'm him. Like I'm. He's like, bro, I ain't gonna lie, bro. You're not even. I'm like, what you mean? And they just put me on game, and I'm like, huh? Like I'm like, huh? Like, you kind of on something, or maybe if I even if I didn't catch it then, like in hindsight, it hit me later. I'm like, oh, I was wilding. That's why he was trying, or that's why she was trying to, boom, 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 boom. So, man, shout out to community. Shout out to community. This is so important.
Yes, thank you for that. And congrats on the new home. Man, that's beautiful for real.
You know what I
Congrats.
mean? We're not paying nothing crazy. We ain't balling. You know, when y'all look into cribs, make sure y'all look into cribs with multiple bedrooms because they be having the deals. When you get the studio, they be like 1,700. You look for a 3 bedroom, right? They might be like 36. You know what I mean?
Man,
And don't be scared of your people. We not in Hollywood Hills. We in like an in between. We below the 10. You know what I mean? Like we not in the best neighborhood, but I'm not scared of my people. I'm not scared of Mexicans. I'm not scared of black people. Like we here. Like
I love
we
that.
here. You know what I mean? Like I'm not scared of my people. I'm not
Yeah,
scared of my people. We here.
that's
Uh,
dope.
so yeah.
That's good. P, did you have other questions?
Yeah, but I know you have to go soon. Just really quickly, I did want to ask, like, why LA though? Like, what made you just come out here?
I was dating a young lady from LA. She was from LA. I met her in New York, and then I started pretty much. There was like a lot of things going on at home during COVID, and I had in an attempt to like bring my family together. Damn, it worked, man. That's crazy. But even in my family, I'm like the person that brings everybody together. Um, like I'm like the, hey, why are we fighting? What are we doing? Like, why is everybody fighting? Shut up! Like y'all yelling, stop. Whatever. That was my thing. So we was kind of having like a family feud during COVID. I won't really go into the details. I let that be family business. And pretty much I was just trying to like glue the family back together. And I'm like, yo, like we always cook. My grandma cooked, my dad cooked. My dad's a chef. Like my dad go crazy. He taught me all my little techniques. You know what I mean? That's why the cookout. We doing the cookout this Sunday. We about to have the jerk chicken popping. You
I take
know, got my pops. Yeah, pull up. You know what I mean? Gonna have a jerk chicken popping. But I'm like, yo, like, I'm like, why don't we just cook together? Like, why don't we just do something that we can all do together? And like, that's gonna be how we bond. That's gonna be like, we're gonna start to work together, and that's gonna be it. We're gonna cook. So I spearheaded it. I'm like, yo, we're gonna start cooking. Let's do it. And they're like, all right, post on Instagram. All right, bet. I said, if I post it, it's gonna get lit. Like, so we really gotta do this together. And they're like, all right. And what ended up happening is I posted it and I was spearheading it. So I ended up doing most of the work. And what it turned into was like I was really doing like everything. Like my dad just like taught me how to make the jerk chicken to the T, like the perfect way. My grandma taught me how to master the oxtail. I just learned all the recipes, all the family recipes. And I was like just cooking family recipes for like $20 a plate, like during COVID, right? And it got super crazy. My girlfriend at the time was like, will like help me with the social media and would, like taking the orders from my DM and stuff like that. And pretty much, obviously, but she started to post like, the plates, like, oh, like my man cooking, like look at his plates. And then like people that she knew from LA was like, yo, tell him to come to LA. We need some Jamaican food in LA. Ain't no Jamaican food out here. Blah 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 blah. And yeah, like pretty much I took the heat of all the people that was hearing her up, and it was like, yo, she was like, yo, we gotta go to LA, like we gotta go to LA, like, because it was hitting. This is COVID, and like I had people was pulling, it was like rapping. There was a line going around my crib in Jersey, for my food. Like it was actually crazy. And I'm like, people like, yo, you really a fire chef? I'm not even really a chef for real. Like this was supposed to be some family thing. Like this was like, you know what I mean? Like this is actually not what I really want to do. Like people were like, yo, you gotta open a food truck, bro. You gotta get it. And I'm like, I don't even want to do this. This is supposed to be like some family thing. Like it low-key like blew up beyond what I planned, like what I thought it was gonna be. So after that, we moved to LA, moved to Silver Lake, and like during COVID, I had like low-key like a mini restaurant, like in Silver Lake. It was like a crazy crib. Me and Lefty moved into it with my girlfriend at the time. She's not my girlfriend no more. Shout out Taylor, that's my wifey. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was a side note. But yeah, pretty much we came over here. Me and my ex-girlfriend came to LA, and like we just like pretty much like started a whole restaurant with like a lot of her client, like not clientele, but like her friends and family. And then it expanded into clientele, like people that she didn't know, I didn't know. Everybody was coming, getting food. And then yeah, that's actually what brought me to LA. I didn't really come to LA with the intention that I came with now. Like low key, like when I was with that ex, I was kind of lost, and like I wasn't really prioritizing my needs and my wants. And actually, like after me and her broke up, I actually like was trying to like find a crib, because like the crib we was like doing a crib together, and then we broke up, and I was like, I gotta find my own crib, but like it wasn't working out. So I had to actually come back to New York for like 5 months. And during that 5 months, like I was like super depressed, like just questioning my worth, like questioning what I'm doing here, like on this earth. Like I was like a super depressive, super depressed. And I see like this is like one of the questions that you guys had like in the email I sent, but it was like, why do you choose to create? And yeah, like during that time of like being depressed, I was like really just questioning, like I said, like my purpose here on this earth. And I pretty much like kind of like was like, I'm just gonna put all this energy into like my craft. Like I'm gonna put all of this energy, this negative energy, I'm gonna choose to make something out of this. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna choose to put this somewhere. I'm not gonna be angry, I'm not gonna be spiteful towards like people, I'm not gonna put the blame on other people. I'm gonna hold myself accountable, you know what I mean? And I'm gonna like put this energy like somewhere. So that's when I came back out to LA after like 5 months to being back in New York. I'm like, nah, I'm going back to LA. Like I feel like there's something there for me. That's not food. And I was kind of angry as well, because like when I went to LA, I was only cooking. I wasn't doing no photography. I wasn't doing anything. Like, I was just cooking. And so when I in LA, people were like, oh, like you the chef, Mike, like you be chefing, right? And I'm just like, I'm not a chef. Like I'm a photographer. Like, like I was like, it was like an identity crisis, I was like, I'm not even that. So I came back to LA after 5 months to go back home to New Jersey, New York. And I'm like, nah, I'm gonna make LA what I want it to be. And I like intentionally came out here. I was like, this time, like, I'm gonna choose my path. Like, nobody gonna be like, you the chef. I'm like, nah, like I'm just me. Like, I'm not even a photographer. I'm just me. Like, I just do what I do, and that's it. Like, don't box me in, because I might say I'm a photographer. I'm gonna fuck around and take out a video camera. I'm gonna fuck around and you know what I mean? Take out a basketball, start like I'm like, oh, you think I do that? I actually do this. Like I'm actually abundant. I actually can do anything I want to do. Right. You know what I mean? Like watch me pivot.
Right. Multidisciplinary.
So what brought me to LA was initially food. But it's crazy now that I say this like out loud. Thank you for asking that question. It's like the reason why I really came out to LA was like to bring my family back together. Like the reason why I started cooking was to bring my family back together, and I moved to LA to cook. Like that's what happened. But even the inception of cooking was just like family. It was to bring people together and to heal. So I think essentially I came to LA to prove the point and to myself that like, I'm supposed to be here. I'm loved. The universe conspires to serve me as I conspire to serve it. And I feel like I believe that even when I was low and depressed, and universe, God, whoever you think dictates it, I don't really care. That's like something else. but like he be working, she be working, they be working. You know, you do the work, and you know he, she, they, universe is gonna meet you halfway, if not 75%. You know, um, came out to LA to spread love, and that's what we doing for real.
Ah, what a way to wrap things. I'm sorry. What a way to wrap things up. That's just the perfect ending. P, you didn't have anything else, right?
No, like we seriously appreciate you and your time, your story. Like that was like we really got like to know you seriously. We appreciate
Nah, I appreciate y'all, because people deserve their space to speak on how they feel and speak about their story. Um, and I'm just grateful that y'all gave me the floor to speak. You know, um, yeah, I'm super grateful. I feel very seen, feel loved, not just by y'all, but by LA. I feel like LA welcomes me and loves me very much, and y'all don't got to do that. That's like, y'all don't got to do that.
It
at
seems like
all.
you come from a rough Jersey. See, I couldn't survive. I'm not gonna cap. I'm all about some love. I'd be scared.
It's not that bad. It's not that. I just feel like God let me touch different spaces so that I can touch different people.
You have
Like,
such a light, like literally.
nah, thank you. Shout out my mama. Yeah, my mama is, because she definitely instilled a lot of like love, and my grandma, rest in peace. Like they instilled love in my heart, like perseverance. Like it's gonna be okay, baby. I can't always heard that. It's gonna be okay, baby. Don't even trip. Like it's all right. We was broke in the hood. I call roaches my cousins. My girl hates that. But but I'm like, when I see a roach, I'm like, oh, there go my cousin.
Never.
Like we grew up together. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Oh my
he
God.
hates that. But you know, like I got to see like being like dirt broke, like with my dad making it working 3 jobs, my mom hustling, my grandma watching us when we, you know what I mean? And I know a lot of other people share that, to like my parents making the sacrifice. They'd be like, yo, like we gotta get our kids out the hood, like we gotta move, we gotta get a home, you know? And them like being broke, like dirt broke in New Jersey with no money, but have a house. Like, look, we broke, but we got a house. Like, we don't got no money for nothing else. You want to wait on flip-flops? I wear flip-flops for a year, my sophomore year, high school. They're like, we don't got it. They're like, we don't got it. Like, we actually don't got it. We don't got no bread. We have the house. We have a house, but we have no bread. Like, there's no extracurricular money at all, you know? So it went from like hood to suburbia to like getting left back to going to college, dropping out of college, trying to be a creative, actually being a creative, being successful as a creative, then like getting lost in like the success and the Hollywoodness, shooting back down to depression, and come like it's like God is like, I'm gonna season you so that when you talk to somebody, you can see them. Like, you know what I mean? Like if somebody's like, yo, I'm depressed, I feel like killing myself. You could look at them in their eyes and be like, bro, I feel you. Like I'm, you know what I mean? Like I actually feel you. I'm not just like saying like, I feel you, bro. You know, you gonna be all right. It's like people tell me like, somebody tell me, yo, I feel like killing myself. And like, I'd be ready to cry. Like, yo, I really know how that feel, bro. Like, I feel you. Like, I feel that, but like, you got this. Like, you good. Like, you good. I'm telling you. Like, it's gonna take a while, but you got it. You know? So yeah, I feel like God sees in me so I can touch people. And, you know, God bless. God bless. It's been a journey, but I'm happy.